Hello everyone. Please bear with me because I'm not very good at public speaking, but the topic I like to cover is very dear to me, and although I don't need to do this, I would like to do this for educational purposes and helps get the word out. It's not something I've been hiding. It's just never something that has never come up. Rarely comes up. When it does, but I figure, why not? It's something I've been thinking about for a year and decided to make a video about it. So here goes. My name is Eric Sylvester. I'm 37 years old. I have Tourette Syndrome. If you didn't catch that, sometimes my speech gets a little screwed up. I have Tourette Syndrome. Now, a lot of you who do not know what that is, I'll explain it. I got a website here to explain it better than I might be able to. Tourette syndrome is a neurological disorder characterized by repetitive, stereotyped, involuntary movements and vocalizations called tics. The disorder is named for, I'm not going to say his name in full, Dr. Georges Tourette, the pioneering French neurologist who, in 1885, first described the condition in an 86-year-old French noblewoman. The early symptoms of Tourette's syndrome are typically noticed first in childhood, with the average onset between the ages of 3 and 9 years old. I was diagnosed in the 2nd grade, along with a learning disorder. I was also held back in the 2nd grade because of that learning disorder. I was learning everything I needed to know, but just not fast enough. It did improve over the years, along with my Tourette's, but I'll get to that later. TS, as it's in its short form, occurs in people from all ethnic groups. Males are affected about 3 to 4 times more often than females. It is estimated that 200,000 Americans have the most severe form of TS. As many as 1 in 100 exhibit milder and less complex symptoms such as chronic motor or vocal tics. When I was first diagnosed, I had both, motor and vocal. Although TS can be a chronic condition with symptoms lasting a lifetime, most people with the condition experience the worst tic symptoms in their early teens, with improvement occurring in the late teens and continuing into adulthood. For me, I had it mild as a child. It got a little better throughout my elementary and junior high years. Even in high school, it was mild. Ever since I think it was my great-grandmother's funeral, there are certain triggers that really bring out the bad ones, like tick attacks. But I'll get to that later. What are the symptoms? Well, tics are classified as either simple or complex. Simple motor tics are sudden, brief, repetitive movements that involve a limited number of muscle groups. Some of the more common simple tics include eye blinking, which I do once in a while, and other eye movements. Facial grimacing. When I was first diagnosed, I had a lot of facial tics, and a lot of times and I'll also point out an actual tic versus a fake one. I don't know what facial grimacing actually means, but if it is what I think it is, well, I used to do this a lot. That was a fake one. Shoulder shrugging, I do that a lot at times when my tics are triggered. I don't know if I can, because of the fact I'm talking about this topic, I may do a lot of tics, just to let you know. Most of my tics that you may see, that's not me faking. They are just coming out. If they do, they might not. Anyway, shoulder shrugging and head or shoulder jerking. Some or simple vocalizations might include repetitive throat clearing, sniffing, or grunting sounds. When I was first diagnosed, I did a lot of, I don't know if we would call it grunting, but I'd call it kind of moaning. I sound like a pigeon. And a family member of mine can, well, not, we'll go there. But I would sound like a pigeon a lot. I don't know if I can repeat it or not, but it'd be like, That was a fake one. It would be loud and it would be constant. It was understandably annoying to those around me. But at that time, there was no controlling it. There was no stopping it. Over time, I kind of learned to, what I thought, control it. But after much thought and looking at different videos on it on YouTube and internet, tics aren't something you can control. I learned that it's not the fact that I learned how to control it. I learned how to suppress it. I can sense it coming on, and as soon as I feel the urge to, I kind of, as I describe it, kind of feel a tick brewing. And the worst ones, you get to the point where this will be a fake one, where I'm shaking, looks like you got Parkinson's disease or even a seizure, but seizures you're not in control of. Tourette's, you can hold it. It is just the stronger the tick, you try and hold that, and I can speak through experience, it is exhausting. It's gotten to the point where even the worst tick attack I've had, which I'll get to later, I did my best to hold it, and it was like holding a 100-pound weight on your shoulders. It gets tiring after a while. It's very sore. But I don't let it stop me from doing anything. Because even in my worst tick attack that I've had, I am still able to function. Anyhow, back to this. Where was I? I just repeat it. It's estimated that 200,000 Americans have the most severe form of Tourette syndrome. As many as 1 in 100 exhibit milder and less complex symptoms, such as chronic motor and vocal tics. Although Tourette's can be a chronic condition with symptoms lasting a lifetime, because that is one thing, you are born with it. You don't catch it. It is not contagious. You are born with it. It's just like, what it actually is it's a chemical imbalance in the brain. There's no known cure for it, as we'll get to later, but it's kind of like having Down syndrome, where Down syndrome you have an extra chromosome. Tourette's, it's a chemical imbalance in the brain. It's something happens that just something goes on in here or doesn't go on in here. Most people with the condition experience their worst tic symptoms in their early teens, which I kind of did, but in a sense with me, it's actually gotten worse as I get older. But I think it's more triggers that bring out the worst of it. I have it all day, every day, but most of my tics, like right now, I'm kind of ticking, but it's so small, you don't see it. Which is why most people that know me, whether it was elementary, junior high, or even high school, even especially in high school, those who spent a lot of time, who I hung out with a lot, you probably didn't see it because it's that small. And there's a lot of people that probably don't know I have it because of the fact that it just never came up, and most of my tics aren't that visual. But when they do rear their ugly head, you see them. And you may see them in this video. Because they're pretty much from here up. Mostly in my arms and my face. Anyhow, what are the symptoms? Tics are classified as either simple or complex. Simple motor tics are sudden, brief, repetitive movements that involve a limited number of muscle groups. Some of the more common simple tics include eye blinking and other eye movements. Wait a minute. I already said that. That's another thing. I may be all over the place in this video. It's just just the way I talk. I'll be an example of it because I lost track of where I was. Where are we here? We'll just better still. I'm gonna go through all of this and then I'll explain in my own words later. We'll go back to this. Tics are classified as either simple or complex. Simple motor tics are sudden, brief, repetitive movements that involve a limited number of muscle groups. Some of the more common simple tics include eye blinking and other eye movements, facial grimacing, shoulder shrugging, head or shoulder jerking. Simple vocalizations might include repetitive throat clearing, sniffing, or grunting sounds. Complex tics are distinct, coordinated patterns of movements involving several muscle groups. Complex motor tics might include facial grimacing combined with a head twist and a shoulder shrug. Other complex motor tics may actually appear purposeful, they're not, including sniffing or touching objects, hopping, jumping, bending, or twisting. Simple vocal tics may include throat clearing, sniffling, snorting, grunting, or barking. More complex vocal tics include words or phrases. Perhaps the most dramatic and disabling tics include motor movements that result in self-harm, such as punching oneself in the face, or vocal tics including, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but corporelia, uttering socially inappropriate words such as swearing, or echolia, repeating the words or phrases of others. I don't know if I pronounced those right. Those are very big words. However, corporelia is only present in a small number, 10% of individuals with Tourette syndrome. Now what that is those who swear a lot. They'll say, well, not going to sugarcoat it, they'll say fuck a lot. Thing is, a lot of people when they, this part, I'm going to kind of veer off here a little bit here, but what that is when most people think about Tourette's, or even when someone says, well, I have Tourette's, well, you're not swearing. Well, thing is, when most people think about Tourette's, yeah, they think about people who have verbally, or they swear a lot. They'll just use other cuss words. Well, bottom line is, out of all people that have it worldwide, only, we'll say 10% of people that have Tourette's have it vocally. Even more so, they have the swear word form, or they'll use cuss words a lot. There's only a small percentage of us that actually have that. It's not a lot. Some tics are preceded by an urge or sensation in the affected muscle group. That's where that thing where I say it feels like something's brewing. Well, that's the sensation. You feel it brewing and kind of have in your mind, let's not do this yet. But sometimes it's best to let it out, because I'll even admit sometimes it's like a sneeze where, like they describe it, it's like a sneeze that you just gotta let out. And some places you want to hold it in, but it feels way better to get it out. I think it's too, that's the reason why a lot of times we hold them, because of the fact that that tic could last 5 hours, or it could last a minute. Those aren't exact numbers, I'm just saying. It's sometimes tics, depending on how severe they are, they can last a long time. I can speak from experience. We'll get to that later. Some with TS will describe a need to complete a tic in a certain way or a certain number of times in order to relieve the urge or decrease the sensation. I can speak from experience on that one. Tics are often worse with excitement or anxiety. Yep. And better during calm, focused activities. When I'm at home or outside of work, I don't care if they happen. I'm home. Even then, most of the time when I'm at home, I relax, but there are certain triggers that bring them out. I think the reason why they don't happen typically at work is because I'm focused at work. My mind is distracted. If they do happen, it's very small, and it's once in a while. But even then, like I say, even the worst tick attack I've ever had, I was still able to function. I was still able to, I wasn't disabled. I couldn't just do nothing. I could still do something. And that's only happened once in the 37 years I've had it. I'll get to that later. I might even say that a lot. Get to that later. But it's the way it is. Tics are often, if we got that already. Certain physical experiences can trigger or worsen tics. For example, tight collars may trigger neck tics, or hearing another person sniff or throat clear may trigger similar sounds. Tics do not go away during sleep, but are often significantly diminished. I don't know if I've ever gone through that, but that might have been one time. But even then, I don't think I was sleeping. I'm pretty sure I was awake trying to go to sleep. But that was something that was triggered by an event earlier that day. What is the course of TS? Tics come and go over time, varying in type, frequency, location, and severity. Yep. The first symptoms usually occur in the head and neck area and may progress to include muscles of the trunk, extremities. Motor tics generally precede the development of vocal tics, and simple tics often precede complex tics. Most patients, snuffy nose here. Most patients experience peak tic severity before the mid-teen years, with improvement for the majority of patients in the late teen years and early adulthood. That may have been the case for me. It was fairly mild for most of my life. Approximately 10 to 15% of those affected have a progressive or disabling course that lasts into adulthood. That could happen with me. But I am not worried about that. Can people with TS control their tics? No. Although the symptoms of TS are involuntary, which means there's voluntary means, well, I'm sure many, if not all of you know what involuntary means. It's something that you're forced to do. You're not in control of it. Like, for instance, with me, when some of my tic attacks are triggered, it just happens like that. That's a fake one. It'll just come out. It sneaks up on you. There's no warning. Like, you get the feeling, but you don't know when it's going to happen until it does. But at times they'll be constant, and then you're like, okay, let's hold it. That was a fake one. Because when you're out in the public, for me, I do hold some of it back, but you can only hold it. You can only hold so much of it for so long, and sometimes it's just best to let it out. It's who you are. Okay, some people can sometimes suppress, camouflage, or otherwise manage their tics in an effort to minimize their impact on functioning. However, people with TS often report a substantial buildup in tension with suppressing their tics to the point where they feel that the tic must be expressed against their will. Tics in response to an environmental trigger can appear to be voluntary or purposeful, but are not. Yeah, that's not something you fake. And those out there who wish they had this, because some vocal tics, they can be cute, they can be funny, and they are funny. You gotta have humor with it, but you don't want that. It's not something that you want. It can draw on much unwanted attention. I don't know if I've ever experienced the unwanted attention, but I have drawn attention to myself. I have actually worried some family members because they didn't know what was going on, but even if there was a cure, I wouldn't bother with it because that's who I am. And even if it's worst state, it's never prevented me from doing what I do. Okay. What causes TS? Although the cause of TS is unknown, current research points to abnormalities in certain brain regions I'm not going to look into this because there's a lot of big words here. There's circuits that interconnect these regions, and the neurotransmitters responsible for communication among nerve cells. Given the often complex presentation of TS, the cause of the disorder is likely to be equally complex. This may be covered later on in here, but the thing with Tourette syndrome, it is very hard to diagnose because it is, of the symptoms, it is very close to other things. Like, for instance, Parkinson's disease. You shake a lot. And like I said, in my worst tic attack I've ever had, the best way to describe it is like having a seizure. I've never had a seizure, but the best way to describe it, it looks like someone's having a seizure when they're having a really bad attack, because it's a full body and you're shaking. But it's not a seizure. It's just a tic, a very big one. What disorders are associated with TS? Many individuals with TS experience additional neurobehavioral problems that often cause more impairment than the tics themselves. These include inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity, ADHD. Problems with reading, writing, arithmetic, and obsessive-compulsive symptoms such as intrusive thoughts, worries, and repetitive behaviors. Well, I don't know if I'm going to get into all of this, but those who wish to explain this more, I think I'll do that in a different video, because this is just like if anything, this is kind of like a test. I may release this on YouTube later. I don't know. This is kind of an introduction to this, so to speak. How is TS diagnosed? TS is a diagnosis that doctors make after verifying that the patient has had both motor and vocal tics for at least a year, which I did. And I was diagnosed, it would have been mid to late 80s. I was born in 1981. The existence of other neurological or psychiatric conditions can also help doctors arrive at a diagnosis. I don't know if I'm going to get into this full thing, because it's a lot to cover. Thing is, I don't exactly remember how I was diagnosed, but I think I had to go to see a therapist and a neurologist, and where am I going with this? And they say Tourette's is hereditary. For me, I don't think it was hereditary, because no one in my whole family tree, there's no known history of it. For me, how I got it could be from my mother being on medication when I was born, or even before I was born, because not that's a secret and no one's holding it back, but I was born within 9 months of a kidney transplant. And what that means is, because of my mother's kidney transplant, she was on a lot of medication to manage it. And it's very likely that because of that medication, I got the Tourette's. Now, in that time, it made a medical history because it's never been done before. Now, a lot of reports out there say that it's where Tourette's comes from, while they say it could be passed down. It's genetics. It could be hereditary. Well, in my case, I don't know if my case is like others, but mine is not hereditary. I'm just saying, from my experience with it and my past, my case is not hereditary. It very well could have been because of medication, but I'm here. I'm happy I'm here. And so far, this is the only problem I have, which is fine. I can still live a normal life. Anyhow, how is TS treated? Well, Because tick symptoms often do not cause impairment, the majority of people with TS require no medication for tick suppression. I don't. I know there's, at the very worst case scenario, there is an operation you can get on the brain to get what I'm going to describe as some sort of implant. I understand that goes to your brain, and it something to do with it. It generates electronic impulses or something like that. It's all it really does is it doesn't stop it altogether. Like, there are some people out there who, this is gonna be a fake one, they'll be like this all day long, and they'll be even hitting themselves and hurting themselves. Those are the one. There is a gentleman out there years ago, a short documentary where he actually had to leave his family and live separately and pretty much separate from his wife because he was a danger to himself and his family. He got the surgery done. It was like an implant they put in him to minimize the ticks. They're still there, but they don't completely eliminate them. There's medications you can take to suppress the ticks, but that's all they do. They just calm you. Like, there's pills you can take. They have side effects. I don't know what they are. I've never tried them. I'm not going to bother with them unless I have to. I've heard you can take cannabis, whether it's smoking it or ingesting it. But even then, all it does is calm you. So instead of going like this, you're like this, maybe. Or calm. That was a fake one. However, effective medications are available for those whose symptoms interfere with functioning. I haven't gotten that bad, so I don't bother. Neuroleptics, drugs that may be used to treat psychotic and non-psychotic disorders, are the most consistently used medications for tick suppressions. A number are available, but some are more effective than others. For example, I don't even know what those are. Big words. Thing is, I've read, there was at least one video I read or watched where this lady she did take medications, but they had very bad side effects like memory loss. She couldn't remember how to read. It got to the point where not taking the medication was actually better than taking the medication. So that's another reason is why I don't bother. Unfortunately, there is no one medication that is helpful to all people with Tourette syndrome, with Tourette's, nor does any medication completely eliminate symptoms. In addition, all medications have side effects. Many neuroleptic side effects can be managed by initiating treatment slowly and reducing the dose when side effects occur. The most common side effects of neuroleptics include sedation, weight gain, and congenital dulling. Neurological side effects such as tremor, I don't know what that word is, but twisting movements or postures, Parkinsonian-like symptoms, and other dyskinetic involuntary movements are less common and are readily managed with dose reduction. This goes on and on and on. I don't know if I'm going to get into this or not. Well, here we go. There still. Is TS inherited? Evidence from twin and family studies suggests that TS is an inherited disorder. For me, it wasn't. Although early family, my kids may have it, but if my oldest son does, it is very small. He kind of twitches when small, and when he was younger, he made it sound like a cricket, but that's gone away, and he's done far better than I have, we'll say. Although early family studies suggested I'm not going to get into that. There's a lot of big words in here, and I'm not going to say I'm super smart, but there's a lot of words in here I'm not even going to try. Let's see here. Although there is no Although there is no cure for TS, the condition in many individuals improves in late teens and early 20s, which it kind of did. It has gotten, as I'm getting older, I'm approaching 40, and daily it's still good, but there are certain triggers that bring out the worst of them. As a result, some may actually become symptom-free or no longer need medication for tick suppression. Although the disorder is generally lifelong and chronic, you're born with it and you have it till you die. It is not a degenerative condition. Individuals with TS have a normal life expectancy, meaning you're not going to die from it. You could be 100 years old, you could be you can be 120 years old and still have it. You don't die from it. TS does not impair intelligence. No, it does not. My intelligence was impaired by the fact that I have a learning disorder. I can be smart at times. Sometimes I even surprise myself. It's just, you're slow. I was slow. I didn't catch on right away. Sometimes I catch on like that, and other times like, what? Although tick symptoms tend to decrease with age, it is possible that neurobehavioral disorders such as ADHD, OCD, depression, generalized anxiety, panic attacks, and mood swings can persist and cause impairment in adult life. Sometimes I might have anxiety, I don't know. I think it's just more of a combination of triggers. Anyhow. There is a lot to cover on this. It's a website I'm looking at, and there is a lot to cover, and I've already spent half an hour, and I've barely even touched my own experience. So, as I read this, I want to get into my own experience, but I keep getting sidetracked. So, I think I'm going to pause this explanation here, and I'm going to get to my own experience, because I just want to get it out already. But like I said, I've been thinking about this for about a year now, and I want to get it out. Okay, well, like I said, me personally, my own experience with it, I was diagnosed in the 2nd grade. I don't know if I was working one-on-one with a teacher or what it was, but it was in elementary, obviously, grade 2. And, well, for lack of a better term, it was a staff member that was working with me doing something, and I had a facial tick. I guess it was maybe a twitch, like an eye blink. It might have been the one I showed earlier that was a fake one. And I know she said anything to me, but I think it was to my parents. She was saying no, because he or she knew what Tourette's was, and she said, no, I think your son might have Tourette's. So I got sent to, I do believe it was somewhere in St. Boniface. It was a therapist. I remember there was a group of people. They were asking me questions. Like a fairly small room, and there was a series of questions I was asked. But I was seen by a therapist and a neurologist. And now growing up, as far as, I don't think I was really ever bullied over it. Like, I was bullied. A lot of people know that. I'm not gonna say I was a victim of it, but yeah, I was bullied. I was picked on a lot. In fact, but I'm not gonna get into that. I'm not hiding it. It's not something that I don't like to talk about, but I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about my Tourette's. Well, Tourette's in general. Growing up, so I had both. It was not so much from here down. It was more my face. I know I had a lot of facial tics, and the one vocal tick that I can remember I had was the grunting, or like those were fake ones. That one was an actual tick, that eye wink, because of the fact that I'm thinking about it. A lot of times when I'm talking about Tourette's or even watching videos or just when it's on my mind, it will happen, and maybe other tics that pop up, I don't know, may not, they may not show up. If they don't, well, I'll fake them just to show you what I'm talking about. I say, as far as being bullied, I don't think I was bullied, but maybe. So I know there was, I'm not gonna name any names, but there was a classmate in particular that called me freak a lot. It could be because of my facial tics, because, I mean, let's face it, when you're a kid with this, it is hard. It can be hard. Because other kids around you don't know what's going on, and any child that shows up in class a little different, yeah, they're going to be the center of attention. And we're like, what's that kid doing? Like, what's wrong with him? Or what's wrong with her? Because, yeah, both boys and girls can and will get this. And like I say, there's another one. There we go. And anyway, when I first started, it was both vocal and facial. Now, as I got older, it got better. It got smaller, and to the point where there was nothing. In my mind, I figured, oh, it's gone. But yeah, it doesn't go. It's always there. It's just the tics aren't always there. And if they are, they're very small. Like sometimes, as I got older, the grunting went away. I still had it, the facial tics. But now, even nowadays, once in a while, my, that's why I can describe it, my stomach will pop. And that's off and on. But yeah, when I was elementary, it was there. Junior high was about the same. I don't think it really slowed down till high school. But even then, it was still there, because I don't know if the group I hung out with high school around the 10th grade, between grade 10 and 12, because there's a group of friends that my sister introduced me to, and it wasn't a big group, it was big enough, and I hung out with them every break, pretty much anytime I had a chance to hang out with them, because I enjoyed my time with them. And growing up, I had my friends, I had the original tripod, so to speak. I had a tripod in high school, and there was a low number of friends I had growing up and in high school. Compared to my sister, there's a lot of friends that I'm pretty sure they accepted me as a friend on their own accord. They weren't forced. Like, I'm not gonna force anyone to accept me as a friend. You accept me as a friend in your own accord, well, thank you. But yeah, in high school, I don't know if a lot of my friends know that I have it, because when I was around them, I barely showed anything. And my best friend, he definitely noticed it, because he didn't mock me. He knew I was humorous about it. He would do certain things, and I laughed. That's the thing. You can't be serious like it. Like I said, as a kid, it is hard. It's not really a laughing matter. You don't say, "Ha ha, that kid's doing that. He's a freak." No, that's not nice. You don't know what that kid's going through, and I've seen a child when my oldest son's elementary school, and he had verbal Tourettes, and it's not easy. I imagine nowadays, like, what's the hell? Just come up with it. Growing up, I went through hell. It was not easy. There's kids like going through what I went through growing up. There's kids nowadays that are taking their own life because of what they're going through. It's not nice. It's not fun. But as you get older, you learn to just deal with it, like I did. You find the humor in it. Like, it doesn't bother me. Like, there's some videos I watched where they show kids with Tourette's, and they say, and it's the truth, I have Tourette's, but Tourette's doesn't have me. And that's the truth. Even in its worst form, you don't let it ruin your life. You learn to deal with it. I learned to deal with it. And yeah, and in high school, it wasn't too bad. Mind you, that all changed. I think it was. Now, I will be first to admit, in high school I got lazy. I repeated 12th grade twice. It wasn't because of my learning disorder, it was just because, like in many teenagers, I got lazy, I didn't show up, and I got held back. Now, what changed everything was, it's not going to be easy for me to say because this person is very dear to me. When my great grandmother passed away, it wasn't very easy. And I mean, it wasn't my first funeral, that's for sure. There was other loved ones that passed away, but for some reason, I later described it as an emotional state. What happened was, it was like emotional, I'm going to call it as my worst trigger. Extreme emotional state. Most of the time it happens when I'm mourning the loss of someone. What happened was, we were at my great grandmother's funeral, and it wasn't right away. It was I don't know if it was many memorials, they'll play like a song and you'll see like a montage of videos. At least for my family, they do that. I don't know how it is for other funerals, but most funerals I've been to for my family, that's what happens. Anyhow, it was somewhere in the middle of the memorial service. I'll go through the texts. Won't see all of them because a lot of them were blow up from the waist down. But for what I can recall, what happened was, understandably, I'm not really crying, but, kind of going through the emotions. You're mourning a loss. And it started out with what I'm going to describe as, when you're listening to a song and your foot starts tapping. Or even more so if you're a drummer, you're using the kick pedal to hit the bass drum while you're, we haven't show you here. You're doing this. You're, tapping to the music, tapping to the beat. Well, it would start like that. I'll be tapping. It wouldn't be both legs, it would just be the one. This is a fake tick. This is what happens in the most extreme tick attack I've ever had. Alright, it's at funerals because I'm mourning a loss. I'm severely upset, or I'm mourning a loss. Extreme emotional state, I call it. Now, it started that way, and I don't remember if it was there the whole time, and at some point it was throughout my body. It wasn't very big compared to my biggest, but that's when it started. That's when my actual tick attacks happened. Up until that point, they were just, once in a while kind of deal. This is fake ones. Just destroy you. Like, it would just be, random, out of the blue, nothing serious. But from that point on, yeah, extreme emotional state brought it out. It was a tick attack. And from there, it was fairly bad. Everything seemed to quiet down until my grandmother passed away. I believe it was. And again, it happened. And I think when that one happened, pretty sure it was when my grandmother passed away. I had a full body attack. Because I got to the point where I'm pretty sure it was everywhere, and I actually I didn't necessarily have to be walked out, but the fact that my whole body was kind of shaking, it was best to be helped out. When I can remember hugging one of my cousins, and when I hugged him, I'm pretty sure he felt like he was holding a 6 foot tall vibrator. I'm just under 6'3", and from head to toe, I was shaking. I could feel it. I'm sure he could feel it. We were embracing each other. It was an emotional time. After that, there was my. It's not gonna be in the correct order. I'm sure it's just off the top of my head. There was my. See, I'm gonna start off my great grandmother's funeral. It was my grandmother's funeral. Brought it out. My if I can get the generations correctly here. My great uncle. At this point, off the top of my head, I'm got a lot of things going on here. And it was with him. It was pretty sure it was my great uncle. His funeral, because he was. Although over the years I kind of grew distant, but growing up, I was very close to him. And at his memorial service, it came out, and it got to the point where there was a wreath he had, because at some point he was in the armed forces. He even fought in. There was a war he fought in. I don't remember what it was, but he fought in it. So he even had the colors come out, or they had the colors come out and salute him. And we all had poppies, and I can remember. And I did this by choice. I mean, we weren't forced to do this. I saw my some family members putting their poppy on the wreath. I figured, you know what? I was very close to this man. I guess best way to describe it is my great grandmother was like a second mother to me. I was very close. I didn't realize how close I was until after I read her obituary. But yeah, I was very close to her, and pretty much every time I see my great grandmother, I saw my great uncle. So I was very close to them. And for you know what, to pay, I don't know if I want to call it pay homage to him or whatever, but to show my respects, I figured, you know what, I want to give this poppy onto that wreath. Well, I got up, and as shaking as I was, I got up and I put the wreath on. And the thing is, when you're shaking, it's like Parkinson's disease, where you're like this, and I went to put the wreath, put the poppy on, and when you're trying to pinpoint where you want something, you're doing this. It's not easy. I actually held my hand, and even then, it was hard to do. Now, that one, it got pretty bad. But again, I was still able to function. Now, my grandfather's funeral, it was the same thing. I mean, we all know what was going to happen, but I ain't going to let that stop me from doing what I want to do. Again, I had a tick attack. Now, after that, I might have a tick here and there. Now, we're getting to the worst one I've ever had. That was at my wife's grandmother's funeral, or wake, however you want to put it. Now, this one was the worst one I've ever had. Like I said, I've been born with it. I'm 37 years old, and I'm gonna say this is the worst. This is the worst tick I've had in 37 years that I've had it. What happened was, and I think the reason why it happened was because of the fact that I knew it was probably I was gonna have a tick attack. I knew it. It was just a matter of where and how bad, or when and how bad. Now, the thing was, and I've changed my mindset on this because of the fact of why it happened, but I'm pretty sure there was actually 3 reasons why it got as bad as it did. 1, I was mourning the loss of a loved one. So it was my wife's, my grandmother-in-law. I'll also call her, because my wife's side of the family are in-laws. Just like if you have a husband, well, they're in-laws. I think the reason why it got so bad is because the fact that 1, I was mourning her loss. She was a loved one. I was mourning for my wife, because again, it's her grandmother. She's mourning a loss. We're both mourning a loss, so there's two mammies right there. And as soon as it started happening, I'm thinking, "Oh, here we go! Like crap! What's this gonna be like?" Right there, I think it's maybe the anxiety of it, or it's like, "Oh shoot! This is really happening. How bad is this gonna be?" I could be wrong, but I'm thinking that's the reason why it got so bad, because it got to the point where my wife and my mother-in-law helped me out to my car, and at that time it was full body. It was everywhere, head to toe. I was twitching. My arms were doing this. As soon as I got into the car, I was like that, because I can hold it, but it's not easy to hold. It eventually calmed down, because all you gotta do is just relax. It does go away. It takes a long time, depending how bad it is or how strong it is. It does go away. I mean, well, I shouldn't say it goes away. It just, it gets to the part where you don't see it. But it kind of does go away. I came back in. Anyhow, I calmed down. I came back in. I was still twitching a little bit. And when I first started ticking away, a family member at that point, my wife's side of the family, if anyone did know, it was a very small percentage that knew. It was a very small group of people. Like I don't even know if my mother-in-law knew at the time. Or if she did, she's never seen them because they're so small. But much of the family on my wife's side, understandably, they didn't know I have it because it's never come up. Just like with much of my friends, if they don't know, well, here. Despite the post, because I made a post about that attack on Facebook sometime last year. Now, despite that post, yeah, understandably, there's I'm on Facebook often, but I don't post every day. Some people do, some people don't. That's just the way it is. Now, despite that being said, a lot of people don't know I have it because it's never come up. I don't often show it because it's not there. It's there, but you don't see it because if I do, sometimes my hand will be a little shaky. That might be it, that might not be it. That was me. This is not me actually faking it. That's my hand being a little shaky. Not necessarily a tick, sometimes it is. But anyhow, so understandably, a lot of people that know me for the longest time don't know I have it because it just never came up. Well, when I was first ticking, there was a family member that came up, understandably, because she saw him shaking and like, what's going on here? And I told her, like I say, I don't know if I told her what I have, but it's something that nothing can be done about it. I just gotta let it run its course. It's in many cases in that situation where I'm mourning someone's loss. In many cases, it gets worse before it gets better. But like I said, that was the worst I've ever had it. It was full body. It was the point where I think it was from head to toe. But I was still able to function. We had a meal later on that day. I was still able to, even though I was doing this a lot, I was still able to eat because I can hold it. We went to drive to the actual burial site. I did the driving. I was, up until I got to the car, I was shaking. But as soon as I put my hands on the wheel, put it into reverse and drive, I was calm. Reason for that, I think, is my mind was distracted. I was focused on something else. Just like there was a some news reporter documentary in the U.S. It was posted on YouTube where this lady that has it, she sings, and she finds that when she sings, because she has verbal and physical, like she has the motor tics and vocal tics, and she found that when she sings, the vocal tics go away. Well, I think the reason why the vocal tics go away is because she's distracting the brain. You're focused on something else. When I'm driving, I don't have it because I'm focused. Like when I'm at work, I'm a truck driver, and even if I'm getting really angry at something or really frustrated at something, like the work life can get you frustrated. Like, why is this happening or why is this like that? And it really get tense. I think the reason why it doesn't happen is because of the fact that I'm focused. But also, I've kind of noticed that I can kind of tell myself, we're not doing this at work. I don't care if it happens outside of work, we're not doing this at work. And if we do, it is very small. And that has been the case where if I have ticked at work, it's been the odd kind of deal, and that was a fake one, and no big deal. It's, like I say, even in the worst tick attack I've ever had was at my grandmother-in-law's funeral, and I was still able to function. It just looked really bad. But I could still do things. It's not, you're not paralyzed. You can't just, I'm having a tick attack, I can't do anything. No, I can still get up and do whatever. I just look like I'm dancing even. Very bad dance, but anyhow, for me, the triggers, say the extreme emotional state triggers the worst of it. Like stress, like if there's a lot going on, it's a little overwhelming. Like sometimes, like I know this recently when we were doing Christmas shopping and going to the malls, I was even doing Santa pictures. I was winking a lot, and I think at some point I was this will be a fake one, but I was like kind of doing that a lot, and it got to the point where it wasn't hurting, but like this is getting really uncomfortable. So in my mind, I think, you know what, and this was an odd thing, but in my mind I was thinking, you know what, I would rather this be in my shoulders than my jaw, because this is getting uncomfortable. And sure enough, shortly after I thought that, it went to my shoulders. That was a fake one. And that's the thing, like it's stress will bring it out, and it's the point where like extreme fatigue will bring it out, and this will be, I don't know if I'll be able to bring the actual ones out, but it'll be the case where I'm like this. I'll be kind of, these ones I'm faking, be like kind of shoulder shrugs or shoulder shakes. Sometimes it'll just be like, once in a while, but a lot of times there'll be a string that will be like kind of shaking it'll be a lot of shakes. Originally I call them the shakes, but a lot of people call them tick attacks, and that just sounded better. I was even thinking I would call them Tourette's attack, because, well, you don't call it an asthma attack or breathing attack, but tick attack sounds better. But anyhow, yeah, there was extreme emotional state brings out the worst of them for me, and maybe other people too. Stress and fatigue, and a lot of times stress and fatigue will be combined and really bring them out. And there was another one, I think it was, I guess if I'm really angry at something, but then again, I think that goes to the emotional state. But I think those are the three big ones. I think it was a fourth one. It was, I think the fourth one I categorize as, being upset about something or being angry about something. But even then, I think that goes back to being emotions, because anger is an emotion. Sad is emotion. Whereas stress could be anything. It can mean, you got a lot to do in a short period of time, and you got, if you're overwhelmed with something, well, that's stress. Fatigue, well, if you're, like for instance for me, I work long hours. Now, I don't have a problem with that, because it's, that's what I do for a living. I've been a truck driver for 9 years. It's the nature of the beast. Now, the thing is too, but when you combine that fatigue with stress, well, sometimes it happens, but I don't let it stop me. Like that one video states, well, I have Tourette's, but Tourette's doesn't have me. I'm not gonna let this prevent me from living my life. When I say I'm married, I have 2 beautiful boys, and I'm not slowing down. I'm not letting it stop me. Like, even if it's in its worst state, I can still do things. I mean, I gotta maybe calm down a little bit, so I'm not, like, I can hold it in, and it does get tiring, but I'm not able to do nothing. I can still function. Now, if it does get to the point where I can't do things, then yeah, I'll probably look into getting like medication for it or something like that. But even then, if it happens, if it happens. If it doesn't, why fix something? Why fix something if it ain't broke? And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of us that have this. I mean, when I first diagnosed with it, it was rare. I don't know how rare, but it was rare. And even as common as it is nowadays, it is still fairly rare. Like, there's a lot of people that don't know what this is. Understandably why. But I figured, after the tick attack I had last year, I figured, what? Maybe I should do this, make a video about it, explaining my experience with it. Because, there's no such thing as too much education. And I believe that when it's something like this, Tourette's, the best education comes from the person that has it. They can describe, this is how I have it. This is what my life is like with it. This is how I deal with it. And maybe those out there to say, well, that have it and don't know what to do with it will say, well, this is what you can do. This is how you can, try this. It's the thing with Tourette's is, the way life is, you can't always be calm, but when what's happening, just you gotta keep it cool. But also, like I said, when you're a child, it can be hard. It kind of gets easier. Like, even in its worst form, it is hard. And when you're going to public and you have these attacks, people looking and they're like, that guy's crazy. What's going on there? Well, no, you can understand not everyone's going to know what this is. Really, how can you educate, billions of people on this planet about what something is? And even then expect them to understand, okay, that's what that is. That's what that person has. Okay, well, I know that's not going to happen, but hey, if this helps raise awareness, well, it's for a good cause. And public speaking isn't exactly my strong point, and this is probably a very long-winded video because I've already been at this for an hour. I didn't think it was actually going to take me that long, but there's a lot to cover, and I haven't even covered much of it. But anyways, I don't know if I've forgotten anything, but for now, and even then, this is actually a test video, because, I may release this actual video on YouTube and do other ones, I don't know. Just more or less just to kind of introduce myself to this whole platform of getting the word out, because I figure between a lot of my family not knowing what was going on, I think they knew what Tourette's is, but just the fact that they didn't know what it was. And there was recently, I had a bit of a shoulder shrug, and there was a much younger family member of mine asked me if I was, had hiccups. I told him no, I got Tourette's. That was a tick. And she says, well, what's Tourette's? Understandably, she didn't know what it was. She's very young, and a lot of kids around her age, or their age, period, why would they know? There's fair amount of education out there, but you can have all education out there in the world about something, and many people won't know what the heck what it is. And when I was describing it to her, and I did the best I can. It got to the part where I was telling it's like someone having a seizure when they're having a tick attack. Except with a seizure, you're not in control. With a tick attack, I mean, in the most extreme cases, there is no holding it. You just gotta let it go. But in my case, I can hold it. And between my tick attack last year and I think it's my niece. I think it's my somewhere down the family tree. She's a niece, and or maybe no, not a niece, a cousin, yeah, like a second cousin or third cousin. I'm not sure how it goes. But yeah, between my tick attack last year and her question, I figured, you know what? I've been thinking about this for a year. I mean, it's not that I wanted to wait a year. It's just I was kind of back and forth on the idea, like, should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? Because there is a lot of education on internet and YouTube about this, but there's no such thing as too much education, especially when it's to do with a disorder or an illness or anything like that. And this is a disorder. It's a syndrome. And so what better way to do it than the person themselves that has the issue. It's certainly not something that I'm suffering from. I don't suffer from it. I live my life normally. And I mean, when you're having a heart attack, yeah, that's something you're suffering from, because like, oh, I got an issue here. Where Tourette's, well, you don't necessarily change your life. There is something that if it gets bad enough, you may have to change certain things in your life. Like, I know there's one lady in particular, I think her name is Jess Tom. She's in the UK. In fact, in the UK, they have the most cases. There's about 300,000 people in the UK that have Tourette's. And I think there's a fair amount in Australia too, I'm not sure. I wasn't saying that for any particular reason. I'm just saying that's where a large population of us have it. It's in the UK and I think in Australia. I could be wrong. But anyhow, there's this one lady in particular. She has gotten it bad to the point where she is not confined, I don't think, to a wheelchair, but she does spend much of her time in a wheelchair because her tics will get to the point where she'll have, it looks like she's having a seizure. They'll take her family will take her out of a chair and get her on the floor and let it do its thing. And I don't think mine will ever get that bad. If it does, well, such is life. You just gotta deal with the things that come with your way the best you can. Like for me, I don't let it run my life. I can still live a normal life with it. So I just gotta, if it does really break out, I just gotta keep calm, and it does take time to calm down, but that's the way it is. But anyhow, without giving a even more longer-winded speech, like I said, I might do other videos to go further into this, because there is a lot to cover. I mean, there's probably a lot of things I didn't cover. But if there is, I'll think about it and I might do more videos. I don't know, but this is more or less to get started at least. So, I think for now, we'll leave it at that.